Remember when movie theaters were a thing? Neither do I. So that's why I rented The Invisible Man, because I need some sort of entertainment. So here we are, the first review in the world of Corona. The Invisible Man is a very, very loose adaptation of H.G. Wells' novel of the same name. Remember a couple years ago when Universal Pictures decided that they wanted in on the whole shared cinematic universe business model and decided, let's go all in on that with our classic monster movies. And then in 2017, The Mummy was a disaster, both critically and commercially. So they decided, let's not do that, let's just focus on making good standalone films. And what a surprise, it turns out that is the prevailing strategy for filmmaking in general. The Invisible Man is actually pretty good, written and directed by Leigh Whannell, the same man who wrote and directed 2018's Upgrade, which is a much, much better version of Venom. So if you actually liked Venom for all of its ridiculousness and how fun Tom Hardy was having, but also thought, hey, what if that movie were good? Go watch Upgrade, because it's actually pretty good. Anyways, The Invisible Man is, as I said, not necessarily a direct adaptation of the novel, because this movie takes some considerable liberties, especially when it comes to the title, The Invisible Man. So, the film essentially focuses on Elizabeth Moss's character trying to escape her domestic and sexually abusive boyfriend, who is a millionaire and a genius in the world of optics. So, essentially what we have here is a movie that serves as both a B-horror movie and a movie that is trying to draw an analog about escaping domestic abuse and surviving it and moving on from it. It definitely succeeds at being a pretty entertaining B-movie. Pretty solid horror movie in terms of it's thrilling, keeps you on your toes, it's suspenseful, things like that. And thankfully, with The Invisible Man, we see that Elizabeth Moss's character is very capable in the sense that it doesn't take her very long to do the 3 obvious things that you should do if you were fighting an invisible opponent. So, that's good to know. As far as the performances go, Elizabeth Moss is great. She's obviously the standout. She does a good job of portraying a character that is both traumatized and determined at the same time to move on and escape from what is clearly a very, very bad situation to be in. And she also does a very good job at portraying this sense of conviction that her character needs to have throughout the film as the narrative unfolds. Aldous Hodge is another character in this movie. He plays a San Francisco police detective who is a friend of Elizabeth Moss's character, and once again, for my fellow Friday Night Lights fans out there, you will recognize him as Ray Voodoo Tatum. Anyways, he does a solid job with what he's given. He's not in the movie a whole lot, but when he is in the movie, he's good. You know, there's really not that much to say. I think specifically Elizabeth Moss's ex-boyfriend's brother, that is quite the sentence, he does a very, very good job in this movie because he is an absolute scumbag. And that is the point of his character, and he does a good job. I hated him, didn't like him at all. Every time he was on screen, I just wanted to slap him. So he did his job. I believe the actor's name is Matthew Brodin. He did a great job. This movie has a limited cast, but those who are in the movie all did a good job. And that's what really matters. As far as the narrative goes, it does take some liberties in terms of how it's adapting the source material. It's not necessarily a direct adaptation because this time he isn't invisible because he's a monster. He's invisible because he's basically a Spider-Man villain. And that's really all I'm going to say. I'm not going to include spoilers in the review because the movie is available on demand for anybody to watch now, so I'm not going to do that. Anyways, as a B horror movie, The Invisible Man is actually pretty good, pretty entertaining for these very, very strange times. It's sure to entertain you. Like I said, it's suspenseful. However, as a movie that serves as a narrative about a woman escaping a toxic and abusive relationship and trying to move on from it, I'm not quite sure that the movie succeeds at that. I understand what it was trying to do, and I applaud Leigh Whannell's efforts for that, trying to elevate the source material, but I don't know that the movie finds that perfect balance between the two. If it had stuck to maybe one or the other, maybe it would have been a better movie, but maybe it would have been a worse movie. So it's kind of hard for me to say, and at the same time, it is pretty hard to argue with the results considering I was entertained. So I'm going to go ahead and recommend The Invisible Man if you're just looking for something to watch during quarantine. If you want to be entertained, I promise it'll do that. If you do want something that's slightly thought-provoking, I say, you know what, go ahead and give it a watch too, because it definitely got me thinking. I understood what the movie was going for. Just because it didn't work for me doesn't mean it won't work for you. The movie is well written. It's fantastically directed by Leigh Whannell. I mean, there is just some really, really dynamic camera work in this movie, and I appreciated the hell out of it. Although I will say, when it comes to having an antagonist that is invisible, well, the action scenes with characters fighting against an invisible opponent look about as ridiculous as they would at any other time. The fact that this movie was made in modern day does not matter. The CGI changes nothing. It looks completely ridiculous. So, you know, as a little B movie, The Invisible Man is pretty solid. I recommend it to everyone, and I hope that you're all doing well. Stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands. May your heart be your guiding key. Goodbye.